Hello, Malik Currington here, Family Budget Fisherman. Thank you for tuning in to this episode for this channel. I know it's been a while. There's a lot to explain, but let's get into today's program. Of course, you've read in the thumbnail and the description below, I'm going to be doing a combination review on the water. And as a result of my having some time off from the channel, I've actually racked up about 40 hours with this beautiful rod combination, including the fishing line. So let's get started. All right. Thank you for tuning in. And for those of you who've been hanging in there with your questions and your comments and so forth, even though I haven't posted a video in a while, thank you for hanging on in there. I think I've mentioned to you all, I now pastor a church here in my city of Redding, California, which is a full-time job, you know, loving the Lord and doing the work. So I had to take some time to merge these efforts together, and I think I've got a nice little combination going. So with that said, just note, I have now done more than 24 hours. I've actually done closer to 40 hours on the water with this particular rod, reel and line combination. And so I want to share with you what my experiences are and whether this is something for you or something for maybe not you, but for someone who you want to introduce into the sport. So I'll tell you off the bat, or I should say at the beginning, this rod is for a person who fishes. If this is your first rod and you're a beginner fisherman, this is the upper end, which is really, really nice. Okay. If you are an intermediate fisherman, this is something. An intermediate for me is if you are fishing so no more than say 2 to 3 times a month, and you're doing basically just kind of just enjoying your fishing. You're not really focused on the crap, but you kind of know what you're doing. You know how to bait your own hooks, you know how to change your own lures and so forth. And then for your advanced fishermen, this will be something you kind of play with. And I'll tell you the reasons why in each of those categories. First, though, let me begin with my criticism and just get it out of the way, because there's so much good to say about this rod, this reel, this line. Let me get my criticisms out on each of them right now. Number one, the rod. This is the 13 Fishing Fate V3. Let me go ahead and turn it around for you to read it. This is that same rod that I bought from Dick's Sporting Goods a long time ago, and I gave you a first review, and now I'm following up. This is the 7-foot medium, and for the record, I will be buying the medium heavy at some point. The major criticism that I have is, and you're going to see it, is the stripper guide here is way too high, and when the line comes off of the spool, doesn't matter whether it's braided line, fluorocarbon, or mono, the lines slap the blank on the way out because there's just way too much space between the spool and the stripper guide, which is the first guide on the rod. And just to give you an example, here is, where is it? Here is the Defy, which is another one of the premier rods of 13 Fishing. I want you to see that you're looking at roughly 6 inches difference there, roughly 6 inches from the stripper to the stripper, okay? And of course, you're talking down to the butt of the rod. And just to show you, butt of the rod, the reel isn't about the same position, okay? So, the reel seat, rather, isn't about the same position. So that's the Defy series. I'm going to step it up. I'm even going to show you the discontinued model for the Defy series, which I still think is a superior rod to what they've come out with. here in again, roughly 6, maybe 6.5 inches from stripper guide to stripper guide. Okay. Now, that here is the Omen. This is the Omen 3. The Omen 2 I have over there. I don't use it very much, although it's a beautiful rod. I just don't use it very much. I'm move my coffee here. Okay, and I'm going to go from bottom to bottom. There and again, you're talking about 6.5 inches right there, if you can see that there. And again, the butts, rod seat, the reel seats are in roughly the same position. I would say that the reel seat of the Fate V3 is probably further back on the handle, which adds to the distance, unfortunately. And last but not least, this is the supposedly, and you'll know one day when I get into the reviews of these Envies, the supposedly discontinued Envy rod. Now, again, reel seat, roughly the same position. Matter of fact, the reel seats are probably about 1 inch closer to the stripper guides on these on each of the rods I just shared with you than on the Fate V3s. But then again, let's look again at the distance. We're roughly 4.5 to 5 inches. So what that does, I've shown you several, even their combos, the Fate combo. Same thing. I'm not showing you anything. 3.5, 4 inches rather. And then of course the reel seat is, there's a big difference on the reel seat here. Okay, for some strange reason. So what I'm showing you is part of the experience when I was casting chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, lipless crankbaits, square bills, moderately diving crankbaits, topwater baits, etc. I did not get the distance that I got from those other rods. Primarily, I believe, is because the line continued to slap onto the rod blank, thereby decreasing the distance that I could cast. Now, having said that, this is 10-pound fluorocarbon, and we'll get into that review momentarily. I did have the similar experience with monofilament and with braided line. When comparing apples to apples, there was roughly a 15 to 20, almost 20 foot in some cases distance, difference in the distance, okay? And I think that's a pretty big difference when it comes to casting and precision. Now, where this rod, it was really, really fun to use, was in pitching and flipping. This rod responds so beautifully when it came to close quarters. If you are within 25 feet, pitching and flipping, okay, this rod works fantastic. I would say this rod for anything within 25 feet, and I mean feet, not yards, anything within 25 feet, this rod could be used by advanced fishermen, tournament competitors. This rod is that good. When casting, I'd put this rod down and pick up something else. But, you know, unless there's a modification, this rod does have the space, okay? Because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 guides and a tip, okay? Now, with that distance that I've shown you, they can afford to move the runner guide down, the stripper guide down, move the runner and runners all down, and then add one more guide, so you'll have 9 plus the tip. I think that can happen if they wanted to innovate in this area. I'm just going to tell you in general, I am not very happy with some of the innovations in rods for this new iteration of rods. And I mean, I'm going from the X Pride on the Shimano side to the, of course, the Corrado on the Shimano side. I'm noticing that in a number of cases, the quote new version is not, there are things taken away from the rod that make it a less utility. What is the term I would like to use? A less capable rod than the rod that it is replacing. Make it a less capable rod. And I'm not happy about that, particularly with rod manufacturers who are trying to widen their base of consumers, and they are going multi-species. So on the older models, you'll have a variance in the lure from 1/8 to 3/4, and then the new one is 3/16 to 1/2, or 1/4 to 5/8. It'd be something like that, and you just wonder what in the world is going on. And especially if you are known to be, although you prefer bass as a fisherman, but you're known to go for crappie, catfish, trout, salmon, etc. So I'm noticing that a lot. So that's my enduring criticism, both of the rod and just rod manufacturing in general. You all know my challenges with the new Defy series rod, and I will maintain that for this one particular thing on the Fate V3. Now, moving on to the reel, here and again. Here is let's see if I can find it. You know what? I'll just pick up this Omen series rod. This is the Omen series rod with the Creed GT3000. Okay. This is the Creed X, which I believe is supposed to replace the Creed GT3000. There is almost nothing, no improvement other than aesthetics. But I'm talking in terms of drag, in terms of the spool, in terms of metal material. There are no noticeable improvements from this discontinued reel to this reel. Okay? Now, there just aren't. That reel that I just showed you, the Creed GT3000, I have about 6 or 7 of those. I will fish those more than I will fish this reel here. This reel was created for some of the newer model rods that are being presented. 13 Fishing has about 3 or 4 newer selections of rods between $50 and $100. One of them is called the Blackout. I think this is for those. I don't believe it's for the Fate V3, although you see it on as part of my combination. I'm saying that to you because in every case, this is the Creed GT3000. While that rod over there is a 6:2 to 1 gear ratio, this one is a 5:2 to 1 gear ratio. The drag on this is 13 pounds. I believe it's 15 pounds, 15 or 16 pounds on the Creed GT3000. It's more than 13. The weight is heavier. That's an 8 ounce. This is a 9 ounce. The ball bearings, that's a 9 plus. This is an 8 plus. So I didn't see, for the life of me, any improvement in the reel. It's beautiful. It's another beautiful reel that they've made. But in terms of that, now on its own, it performed very well. It performed acceptable. It had an acceptable performance. I'll even go so far as to say, if you are a beginner fisherman, this is not a bad reel to purchase. It's less expensive. That reel was $90. This reel is $60. This reel right here is great performance. I mean, it has a decent performance in and of itself. It is inferior to the reel that it replaced, but it is still acceptable for the types of fishing that you might do in a very non-competitive way. So if you're a beginner fisherman, this works. If you're an intermediate fisherman, but you fish as part of, going picnicking and doing those kinds of things, this is good. Now, if you want to do something more serious, I would even suggest that you leave 13 fishing and move into Daiwa, move into Shimano, move into even Fluger to get some, or Abu Garcia to get better performance. The Revo X, I think, is a very much superior reel to this reel here. And then, of course, you have Daiwa's versions where they have drag systems at 22 pounds. Go in that direction. So I say all that to say this, that, again, everything performed, and you see me, I still have the reel on, and I will continue to use it. I may move the reel from this to the Defy, and let it sit there and put another reel on here. But it worked out quite regularly. Now, quite well, rather. Now, let's get to the line. This line is the Seaguar 101. This is a new brand of fluorocarbon that they have. It is like all of their material, all of their products is this is 100% fluorocarbon. It's called BasiX, BASIX, and one of the things is it's a little thicker than their labels, black label, red label, etc. And it performs well, in my view, up to 10 pounds. I have on here 10-pound test on here, and I would recommend it for spinning rods. However, I would not go beyond 10-pound test on this for all kinds of reasons. It's still, fluorocarbon has always been wiry. This fluorocarbon, and at 100% fluorocarbon, was, in my view, an improvement over what was. So I recommend that if you want to start off, getting into fluorocarbons, here is a way to go. Don't do more than 10-pound tests, because that wiriness will kick in, and you can catch a lot of fish on 10-pound tests. I do not recommend you go below 6-pound tests either, and that's just simply because, and you won't always hear about this, but fluorocarbons in general, the kind of material that creates a fluorocarbon, the durability is just not there at strengths below 6-pound test, because this is a very, very heavy and brittle line compared to monofilament. If you're going to go below 6-pound tests, maybe use a liter of 8-pound tests and then go down to 4-pound tests or something like that. But if you think you need to go to 4-pound tests, I never believe I need to get that low. There's some who do. Bless you all. You have the courage of a lion. I don't have that kind of courage to have that kind of thin line out there. That's why I use fluorocarbon, because fluorocarbon is supposed to be invisible. Invisible is invisible. 20-pound test, if it's fluorocarbon, it's invisible. Okay, so just think on that in those terms. So would I recommend this line? Yes, I would recommend this line. You could use this line all the way up through the professional, advanced. I'm going to be using BasiX for a long time. Okay, I like my Trilene 100% fluorocarbon, but I also like Seaguar BasiX. I think I'm going to keep using them at the lower level, the lower end, and then I'll continue to use my Trilene at 15 and 20-pound tests. So I might continue to do it that way. As a matter of fact, I think this performs better than Trilene category to category, 6, 8, and 10-pound test. I'm going to buy some P-line and compare it to the P-line 100% fluorocarbon. We'll see what happens. So that's my overall recommendation. This exact combo can be bought at Dick's Sporting Goods. If I were to go to the store and know that I'm not going to be fishing anytime competitive, or if I'm fishing a place where there is very little fishing, like a private pond or something like that, I'd carry this entire combination and feel very confident I can get out there and do some good work. But if there's any kind of competition, the first thing I would do is replace my reel, and then I would relegate this rod and line combination to pitching and flipping in areas where 10-pound test will work for pitching and flipping. It might even be a good drop shot. It might even be good for a darter head. You know, those are definite things. Or if I'm going to throw any kind of reaction bait, I know that I'm good up to 35 feet. You know, and I might just do those kind of short casts. So that is my on the water review. 40 hours I spent with this combination, and overall I give this combination an 8 because it definitely performed at a 10 plus within 25 feet. I mean, like I said, the reel, yes, the line, yes, and the rod in combination performed that stellarly. You know, so that is my recommendation for this combination. I hope this video has come out in time to help you out. And once again, I say do everything you can not to break your family's budget, but also do everything you can within good ethics and the law to get out there and break your personal best. I will see you in the next video. And yes, there will be a next video real soon. Take care. Be blessed.